For 2 days in June 2020 and another 2 days that October, environmental epidemiologist Ioar Rivas wore a special backpack whenever she left her home. As she rode her motorbike to the lab, or picked out fruits and vegetables at the grocery store, an air pump on one shoulder strap hummed quietly, while a tube on the other passively sampled the environment. People look at you like you are carrying something weird, that is, making some noises, she recalls of the experience. They don't understand what is going on. Rivas was, and still is, taking part in a research study aiming to measure how much air pollution pregnant people are exposed to, and to identify associations between those pollutant levels and the neurodevelopmental outcomes of their children. She recalls having her baby's brain examined during an ultrasound in her 3rd trimester, and later nursing her 1-month-old son to sleep before placing him in an MRI machine for further scanning. Rivas is not just a study participant. She also happens to be a scientist involved in the project, working as a postdoc in the lab of the study's director, Jordi Sunyer, a developmental epidemiologist at the Barcelona Institute for Global Health, ISGlobal. Inside a backpack, an air pump with filter, Ieft, measures personal exposure to fine particulate matter that is 2.5 micrometers or smaller, while a second device, Right, monitors personal exposure to black carbon. We would like to study how the exposure during the pregnancy is really affecting the brain. The project, called the Barcelona Life Study Cohort, BiSC, is a follow-up to a study of school-age children that identified correlations between kids' neural activity and the levels of air pollution they. But the researchers didn't find any structural differences in the children's brains. The kids in that study were aged 7 to 9 years, so their brains were more than 90% developed, notes Sunyer. Our question is, what would happen? In 2009, for example, a group of researchers at Columbia University linked higher in utero exposure to one type of air pollution, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, PAHs, with reduced IQ at age 5. Since then, Sunyer notes, longitudinal studies from numerous countries have similarly found an association between exposure levels and reduced intelligence or mental functions. Preliminary data from various research groups have also revealed an association between prenatal air pollution exposure levels and risk of behavioral syndromes such as autism spectrum disorder, although there the results are less consistent, Sunyer says. To better assess the potential influence of prenatal exposure on neurodevelopment, Sunyer's team launched BiSC in mid-2018. Although COVID-19 has complicated some of the project's data collection, the team has nearly completed its planned enrollment of 200 pregnant people, who for 2 days during their 1st or 3rd trimester, or 2 days during each, as Rivas did, will wear the air pollution detecting backpacks WHE. Around 500 early participants in the study carried backpacks fitted with a tube for sampling NO2, a monitor for black carbon, and an air pump attached to a filter that captured particulate matter 2.5 micrometers in diameter or smaller, PM2.5. Outside the homes of study participants, researchers placed a sonometer to capture ambient noise and a tube to measure NO2. With regard to the BiSC program, she adds, "It's really nice that they're starting early and that they're doing this very personal exposure assessment and this very cutting-edge neurocognitive assessment. That's very innovative and probably unique as far as I know." Emory University environmental and reproductive epidemiologist Audrey Gaskins agrees that the BiSC cohort study will generate valuable data for understanding the link between prenatal air pollution exposure and neurodevelopmental outcome. Her research has shown that higher levels of air pollution are associated with lower fertility among people undergoing assisted reproductive technologies, suggesting potential toxic effects on the ovaries, and it remains an open question whether there could be any effects of preconception exposure. "We think a lot of these air pollutants have a specific negative effect on the ovary, and particularly we think it might be affecting the epigenetic signature of the egg, she says. So that again might have downstream consequences for neurodevelopment. Does air pollution have an impact on the epigenetic profile of the egg, and can that translate to outcomes even in childhood? BiSC participant Yasmina Diaz wears the air pollution measuring backpack on the streets of Barcelona. Going forward, it will be important to examine when during pregnancy the fetus is most vulnerable, as well as to identify possible mechanisms by which air pollution might influence fetal health, says Ferran Ballester, a public health researcher at the University of Valencia who is not involved in BI. It is also very important to look at the nature of the exposure, which pollutants or characteristics are playing a role in the potential detrimental health effects, he adds. All of the above will help not only to increase knowledge on the relationship, but more importantly, to develop actions and measures to prevent potential harm. In the meantime, evidence is building that air pollution exposure may have adverse effects for birth outcomes generally, so much so that we felt that there was strong evidence of association, and also ample reason to think that this was cause and effect and not just a statistical association. We have enough data to start taking action. With respect to her own pregnancy, Rivas says that she didn't worry too much about her exposure to pollution because Barcelona was in lockdown as a result of COVID-19, and the levels of air pollution in the area were very low as a result. She now lives in an area with very little road traffic, she adds, which also eases her mind regarding any exposures her infant son may have. Still, she notes, I try to avoid streets with high levels of road traffic. Quote, please support my channel to grow by pressing subscribe button and the bell icon. We will notify you technological news. Thank you.